Hey everybody, welcome to Stuff Sketched with Gregg Schigiel. I am Gregg Schigiel, and you are going to watch me draw one of the pages from my coloring book, Superhero Universe. This page features a character named Wonderbear, who is a superhero bear. Superhero Universe is a coloring book of animal superheroes, and this is one of them. Wonderbear is, in the coloring book, each superhero has some text that accompanies the drawing. So for this one, I'll read you the text for this character. But first, just a little bit of setup. So in this one, I'm drawing this figure, and you're going to see a lot of drawing and redrawing. The thing you're seeing that hasn't changed is my initial sort of doodle sketch that I proceeded to then work over. And you're going to see me work over and over and over and over again. Some of this is just me trying to find the pose right, and then some of it will be me doing some costume design on the fly. I designed the costume, but then I started making some changes as I was drawing, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. If you've seen my other videos, you've heard me talk about the drawing as baking metaphor or analogy, where this is the mixing, the measuring, the preparing the batter before it even goes into the oven. Then the penciling, I guess, is the baking, and then the inking would be the frosting of a cake, if it's all a cake. But this is Wonderbear, and I will read you the Wonderbear gets 2 pages in Superhero Universe, so I'll read you the text from both of those pages. Once upon a time, a bear cub in a hibernation pod fell from the sky like a meteor. From all appearances, he seemed like any other baby bear, except for that he possessed incredible powers and grew up to become the superhero known the world over as Wonderbear. Theories abound as to his true origins. Scientists wonder if he's an alien from a planet of bear-like aliens. Some animals believe he was, as a baby, taken and experimented on by aliens giving him his powers. Government officials wonder if his parents were among the astronauts and scientists aboard a space station that mysteriously vanished many years ago. Wonderbear might be the most powerful superhero of them all, with the powers of super fast flight, invincibility, super strength, heightened senses, laser eyes, and more. Now I'll take a break from reading to talk about just drawing Wonderbear's head. I did a lot of passes on Wonderbear's head. A lot of tweaks, a lot of changes, a lot of adjustments, to the point where you'd think I would have been satisfied with it. But you'll see in a bit, I give it another go after all those tries of drawing. So now that I've drawn everything, I'm drawing over it again. This time I'm cleaning things up even more. And if you're wondering, like, what is the process? Why do you keep drawing it over and over again? It might be a bit nuts. I'm not going to dispute that. But when it comes time to ink, you will see the ink lines go down really quickly. Granted, this is a sped up video, but even in real time, the ink lines go down pretty quickly because I've done all the work in advance to prepare for the inking process. So now I'm blocking in some of the background, some buildings. He's flying over the skies. This is super rough, and when I draw the buildings properly, you'll see that I'm using the perspective tools that are available in this software, Clip Studio Paint, and other nifty gadgets of that ilk. Ilk? Yeah, ilk. So now I'm refining the pencils even more, because of course I am. And now I'm tweaking the costume details. So in the original design, he did have this sort of paw symbol on his belt, and then I thought otherwise. That it had a cape connection way, what cape connection way? A way of connecting the cape, and then I came up with this shoulder thing, and then I tweaked the chest symbol. And then I rethought the belt. So basically there's a lot of thinking, rethinking, drawing, redrawing. And then this continued even to the point where I was figuring out colors. because this drawing ends up being the cover to the coloring book. So now I'm redrawing the head again. After all the times I drew it before, I'm redrawing it. I don't know. I wasn't counting. I was reading while it was happening, so I don't entirely know how many times I redrew this head. But it was a lot. In some regard, I was trying to capture that thing that happens with bears' mouths, where like I may not be describing this correctly, but where like the upper lip sort of flares out, the teeth show. This came out. This is pretty good, pretty close, and that's why I move it off to the side, because I was like, all right, that's not bad. I was pretty happy with that, but I kept trying because no rest on this one. And wait till you see which one I choose. You might already know. And in the end, I just go with the one that's there. Incredible. And now it's inking, and you're going to see the inking happen very quickly. So while that's happening, I'll read the second page of text for Wonderbear from ZOOPERHERO Universe Coloring Book. While his origins remain unclear, his heroism and decency are not in question. Wonderbear's adopted parents taught him to control his powers and raised him to handle them responsibly to benefit the world. That he uses these powers to protect the Earth when he could, if he wanted to, rule it, make him all the greater the hero. As a result, Wonderbear is perhaps the world's most well-known and beloved superhero. Now we're back to the ink. So you're seeing the inks happen very quickly. The only time it sort of slows down is if I'm redrawing a curve too many times, or spotting shadows and blacks and stuff. And some of the redrawing happens because I'm doing this digitally, so I have the benefit of just being able to click in a history palette to undo certain things I've done. If I were drawing this on paper or analog, I would be inking slower for sure, because I wouldn't have that safety net of, well, if I mess up a line, I could just make it go away and start over, which is what's happening with me ultimately deciding not to draw a line delineating pectoral muscles. The other thing you could do digitally is go in with white and clean some stuff up, or add highlights. I did make that decision in the inking stage to close the eyes for illustration of absolute joy of soaring through the air. Now the inking of the buildings, I'm going to speed up even a little bit more, just because it's a lot of just straight lines. That may or may not be the most exciting thing. Before that, so here's an example of me overthinking and overdoing things as I spot the shadows on the trunks and the wristbands, mostly the trunks. But like each version I've done so far, as I'm watching myself draw, I'm like, those are fine. But this is what I ended up with, which also is perfectly fine. So for the background, I laid down these perspective lines in Clip Studio Paint for a 3-point perspective. And then I can start blocking in the building shapes. Now this is the second pass of what would be the pencils for the building. So I'm just figuring out where the building shapes are going to go, and then I will go in, quote-unquote, inking it. At this point, I'm just trying to avoid tangents, avoid like lines of the building sort of hitting specific areas of Wonderbear's form. And you'll see as I ink it, I try to avoid those things as well. Like right there, you can see the top of the building was sort of hitting the top of Wonderbear's hand, and it wasn't working. So now I do, this is more technical than it needs to be, but I'm filling a layer behind Wonderbear in white, so I can just draw behind it. This is all in layers digitally. So now I can just draw behind Wonderbear, not sweat ruining that drawing. So right there where that foot was, that was me making some adjustments to avoid tangents. Little water tower, and then the windows go down. Now the windows, in some cases I'm free forming it and sort of guesstimating the distance between the windows and not really giving it a ton of thought. And then you'll see later there's a building where I start doing that, and then I realize I need to put down a grid to better create the shapes and forms that I want. This is not my favorite thing to do, draw buildings and backgrounds. In this instance, the buildings are fairly simple, which is nice. Good and cartoony. And 1,000,000% this perspective tool is incredibly helpful. So with this building, this is where I start to use, I have to go in, like so, here's where I go in and lay down, using the perspective grids again, placement for these windows. There's a little more order to them. And now, as I mentioned, this became the cover of the book, so after I finished inking it, I added some color to the main figure, like that, and then I designed the cover. So I slapped that image onto the cover like that, on a blue background, and then I added some other superheroes like Hop Chop, and Insect, and Moonwolf, the Collared Spaniel, and Flexi Bill, making this book Superhero Universe Coloring Book by me, Gregg Schigiel. And then as a little bonus, here's a look at the actual physical book, and I'll flip through some of the pages for you. There's a link below on how to get this book. That's about all the stuff I have left to say. See you next time.